Well, the M23 has been under attack since morning today, the 3rd of March 2025. The Wazalendo alongside the FARDC have waged serious attacks against the M23 in South Kivu, and they have managed to regain territory that had been ceded previously to the M23. And these attacks have come in the wake of the M23 announcing that they are going to advance even southwards, the southeastern part of DRC, up to Lubumbashi, and then westwards to Kinshasa. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you the specific towns and villages that have been gained by the Wazalendo forces. As well as in this video, I'm also going to tell you the incapability of the FARDC in fighting against the M23, despite the fact that there are close to 200,000 troops in the Congolese army, yet they are finding it hard to fight the M23 in eastern DRC. Why is that the problem? Well, this is bona fide. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit that notification button so that when I release something new on the Congo crisis, you get notified as soon as possible. Well, lately, the recent news that has been coming from eastern DRC has been the successes of the M23 in gaining territory even that it hadn't gained before. We know Goma, and the M23 is not new to Goma. The M23 had taken Goma before. North Kivu is quite fond of the M23, but South Kivu has been a new territory altogether for the M23. And the M23 say that it is going to push even southwards. It has retaken the main city of Bukavu right now. That is the second largest city in eastern DRC. And they've said that they are not going to stop there. But the other side is not just looking while the M23 continues to advance. The Wazalendo militia are very active in South Kivu. They have been active to try to prevent the increase of territory of the M23 in South Kivu. And today has been a hallmark of that statement by the Wazalendo, that they are not going to allow the M23 to continue to expand in eastern DRC. Today in the morning, the Wazalendo and the FARDC have launched attacks in the villages of Magaja, Bivumu, Bikelekele, Abala, and Hamzi in the locality of Bibokoboko, 20 kilometers from the city of Baraka, east of DRC. And still in Fizi, but this time in Minembwe, the villages of Kivumu, Biziba, Gipimo, and Nyagishasha in the sector of Lulenge have also been under fire since 7 a.m. today. And that is not all. In Walungu, around Bukavu, Wazalendo under the leadership of Yakutumba opened fire at Ngweshe since 7:20 a.m. So this seems to be a coordinated attack by the Wazalendo against the interest of the M23. And mark you, in these particular villages and towns, the Wazalendo and the FARDC were not meeting M23 in all these villages. There are allies of M23 that have been holding these particular villages and towns. And these are the allies that also have been fought by the Wazalendo and the FARDC. Now, why are we saying Wazalendo and FARDC? It is because in this particular onslaught, the Wazalendo were the ones that were taking the war against the M23 and not the FARDC. It is reported that many FARDC have withdrawn, leaving the Wazalendo to act alone, and those who remained are only giving support to the Wazalendo. And that begs the question of what we had started by saying, why is the DRC seemingly incapable to fight the M23, despite the fact that that is a national army? The national army should not be relying on militia to assist them in fighting. So there is something off, and that is the disorganization that is assisting even the M23 to be able to fight in eastern DRC and to gain territories the way it has already gained. Well, there is some serious lack of motivation that is evident among the Congolese army. And that has been seen by the fact that many troops did not even take long to change allegiances to follow the M23 and their onslaught to fight the Congolese government. Many Congolese police officers that were in these particular territories have been retrained and right now are under the authority of the M23 in governing these particular places in Eastern DRC. Well, despite the fact that Congo is a very rich country, the Congolese army are underpaid and underarmed. This is because of the fear of the government of the day that there can be a coup. And many countries, more so French-speaking countries in Africa, have undergone coups for whatever reason that is. And that is the fear that the Congolese government, the top of the Congolese government, the president himself, had fears of previously before he changed his mind, because he was thinking that if you enable the army to have the capability that it needs, then it's going to be a threat to your reign in government and they are going to commit a coup and you are no longer going to be president of that country. So the only way for you to make sure that there is no coup is to ensure that the army does not have the capacity or the capability to conduct a coup. And that means that you underpay the armed personnel and you underarm them, make sure they don't have sophisticated weapons so that they cannot be a serious threat to your reign. And that is exactly what happened in the DRC. For years and years, the Congolese army has been underpaid, it has been understaffed. So that meant that they don't have that motivation to continue to serve with diligence in the army. And that is why we also saw the Congolese army preferring to use mercenaries even in Eastern DRC to fight the M23. And these mercenaries were captured by the M23 and they were repatriated back to their home countries. That is why you find that the Congolese army had trust in foreign mercenaries, foreign fighters, and not their homegrown fighters in the FARDC. And the crisis in the Congolese army is not only on the troops, but also rises in the organization, the entire structure of the organization of the Congolese army. You'll find that there are commanders that are taking advantage of the troops, extorting the troops. You'll find that there are many roadblocks that are being managed by the FARDC so that they can extort people because they are not earning enough money in the army. So they are getting creative, they are getting different ways so that they can gain a lot of wealth. You find that commanders will have ghost workers and they will be withdrawing monies from these ghost workers just to pay themselves. And this is the reason as to why even the Wazalendo FARDC alliance is not as solid as it should be. Because there are instances, and I reported even here just last week, there are instances, for example, what happened in Uvira. The FARDC surrendered and Wazalendo said, you should not surrender. And they turned their guns against each other and they started fighting against each other. These are allies that are supposed to fight the M23 but have turned against each other. It is far much easier for the FARDC to cede land and say that we are not going to fight because the motivation is very low, that we are not going to fight the M23. We don't want to lose our lives here because we are not even gaining much. That is the FARDC, but the Wazalendo fighters perhaps have a higher calling in fighting the M23. And that is why even in today's onslaught against the M23, the Wazalendo fighters are the ones who manage the entire attack against the M23. But recently, the Felix Tshisekedi's government since 2023 has upped the support, the government support to the army to ensure that the army gets enough support so that they can fight their wars in Eastern DRC. But something that Felix Tshisekedi did not know is that you cannot upgrade an army just overnight. It will take years and years so that that particular army can be steadfast to fight against insurgencies in whatever part of the country. And that is the reason as to why, even right now, the Congolese government is seeking support from countries outside so that they can assist their forces, despite the fact that they have so many troops, they have a lot of wealth, they have the monies. If they wanted to pay these Congolese troops, they have the monies to really pay them well. But the disorganization, the corruption, and the lack of motivation from the Congolese troops are making it harder for the Congolese army to fight even the M23 that is well trained but doesn't have so many people compared to the Congolese army. but it is fighting and winning wars in Eastern DRC as if they are of an equal force, which is not the case. So that is the reason as to why the FARDC is retreating most of the time. When the M23 goes to a particular area, the FARDC is the first to retreat because of the lack of motivation, because of corruption. Even the commanders have different agendas. They're not there to secure the country. They are there to secure their interest in particular places so that they can gain wealth. That is the weakness that is facing the FARDC. That is why we are finding that there are very many militias in Eastern DRC having the capacity, having the freedom to do whatever they are doing because of the systemic weakness in the army that is now stressing the president of the day, Felix Tshisekedi. And many are saying that it is possible that there can be a coup in the DRC because of all these crises that the president seems incapable to manage in his own country.